I now give the floor to Mr. Carlos Ruiz Massieu.
Muito obrigado, Senhor Presidente. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to present the latest report of the Secretary General on Colombia and to update the Council on important recent developments since the publication of the report. Señor Presidente, es un gusto estar en este Consejo de Seguridad en compañía de la vicepresidenta
Marta Lucía Ramírez, and I'd like to take this opportunity once again to thank her for the support and cooperation of the Government of Colombia extended to the verification mission and to the United Nations in general. I also here welcome to the session Ginés Caso Piamba, a leader of the NASA people of the Cauca Department and a member of the Women's Network of the Caldon Municipality. Indigenous women, as this council is well aware, have played and continue to play a leading role in building peace from a territorial perspective. And I am particularly delighted to present this quarterly report in the company of Father Francisco de Rou, President of the Truth Commission. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate him and the other commissioners for their extraordinary work over the last 3 years and for the recent publication of the final report. I'd like to also echo the main message conveyed to the country when this report was presented. It is only with truth that a better future for Colombia will be built.
Members of the Council, over the past few months, Colombians took part in a hard-fought political campaign leading to the election of President Gustavo Petro and Vice President Francia Márquez, who will be sworn in on 7 August, and of a new Congress that will be installed in 20 July. I reiterate the Secretary General's encouragement over this mostly peaceful election and take the opportunity to highlight once more the significant contribution of the final peace agreement to widening and deepening Colombian democracy. Electoral outcomes increasingly reflect the diversity of the country's vibrant society. More guarantees exist now for exercising political opposition, and 16 representatives of victims from conflict-affected regions will have their voices heard in Congress. This, too, will be an unprecedented Congress in that it will include the largest ever share of women lawmakers, close to 30% of all Congress. I recently had the opportunity, along with the UN women representatives, to meet with several of the newly elected women lawmakers. They express their clear determination to advance many issues in Congress, including the gender provisions of the peace agreement. We hope the new Congress will make considerable progress in passage of more than 30 peace-related norms still pending approval, including in key matters such as the comprehensive rural reform and guarantees for political participation. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, along with the reasons for encouragement, we are also reminded constantly of the serious obstacles that still remain to the consolidation of peace. Chief among them is the persisting violence against communities, against leaders, and former combatants in several departments. It saddens me to have to inform you about the killing of 4 more former combatants since the Secretary General's report was published 2 weeks ago. Among them was Ronald Rojas, known as Ramiro Durán, a prominent leader of former combatants in Huila Department. Ramiro had stood out for his commitment to peace since the onset of the process after the laydown of arms. He became a leader of the reintegration process and an advocate for the implementation of the agreement more broadly, including as an active member of the Commission for the follow-up, promotion, and verification of the agreement until 2021. Including this most recent death, the mission has registered the killings of 331 former combatants since the signing of the agreement. Their security must be guaranteed. A priority for any peace agreement must be to safeguard the lives of those who lay down their arms in good faith with the assurance that they would be protected. Mr. President, illegal armed actors continue to target local leaders in conflict-affected areas marked by poverty, illicit economies, and a limited presence of the state. Indigenous and Afro-Colombian communities are among the most seriously affected by the violence and insecurity. And while the full implementation of ethnic provisions of the final agreement could help address these most urgent concerns, their implementation remains comparatively low. The high-level forum of ethnic peoples created by the agreement has called for a dedicated follow-up on the ethnic matters by international actors. I fully endorse this recommendation. Mr. President, concerning information has recently come to light regarding the alleged misuse of considerable resources from royalties from hydrocarbon exploitation allocated for the implementation of projects within the development programs with a territorial focus, or PEDETs. Transparency in the use of precious funding for peace demands that all possible acts of corruption should be thoroughly investigated by the authorities, and I trust that this will be the case. Señor Presidente.
Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, in spite of the myriad challenges facing the process, developments in this period also include inspiring progress. In a milestone of the utmost importance for peace in Colombia and for the world, the Truth Commission, a few weeks ago published its final report. This report is a broad compendium of many voices and sectors across the society and map of Colombia. The report revealed painful findings regarding the causes and effects of the conflict. It included heart-rending figures about the numbers of lives cut short, indeed the lives of thousands of Colombian people. These lives were cut short over decades, and the report also included heart-rending findings regarding the dynamics which explain the persistence of violence. The report also presents an invaluable legacy of recommendations so that it's possible to forge ahead with building peace and reconciliation as a national project. These recommendations include an appeal to state bodies to guarantee the full implementation of the final peace agreement. Moreover, the historic first hearings of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, focusing on the acknowledgement of truth and responsibility, saw the voices of thousands of victims' representatives speak out. The court heard their appeals for justice and reparation. In line with its goal to provide redress, the court had its hearings open a space so that it could hear from former members of the FARC-EP, former members of the government forces, including senior officials and other civilians. They were able to speak out before victims and before the world to contribute to truth through their recognitions, and they strengthened their commitment to non-repetition. This allowed the SGP to move towards imposing its first sanctions. We also have the unit for the search of missing persons, and it has continued its important work. Only a few days ago, it determined the whereabouts of a father who was able to be reunited with his two daughters, and two brothers that had been separated for decades were reunited. The mission must also continue to follow up on these efforts and all other efforts undertaken by all parties towards a common goal, and that is to ensure that victims enjoy their rights to truth, justice, reparation, and non-repetition.
As the incoming administration prepares to take office, President-elect Petro has called for national unity and has expressed his intention to deepen the comprehensive implementation of the peace agreement, as well as to seek negotiated solutions, both political and judicial, with the remaining illegal armed actors in what he has called the search for total peace. When I met him 2 weeks ago, he strongly reaffirmed that peace would be a cornerstone of his government and that he was counting on the support of the United Nations. I also had the opportunity to meet with Vice President-elect Francia Marquez, the first Afro-Colombian woman to hold this position, who has also reiterated that peace, with a territorial and ethnic approach, will feature prominently in the government's agenda. Indeed, the incoming administration has a tremendous opportunity and responsibility to accelerate the implementation of the peace agreement. There are very good reasons for optimism, and I believe the United Nations and the international community at large should do all they can to lend their support. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Mr. Ruiz Massieu